Hello, Siyanibhoti Samawethu. Welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios right here on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure. Igama lami ke mnandi ngosiphiwo speech Nzawumbi. Nawe ke ungasivulela phasi kuvalwe ngaphandle ungathabatha inxaxheba kungxoxo yethu namhlanje ngokusala ukunxeba phaya kunombolo yethu esiqhelo engu-011 714 6918 and 6919. Ungasithumela ke ne-email. We're also taking your emails at consumer@sabc.co.za, or rather just go and find us on social media, and that is Facebook and on Twitter. So on Facebook, our page is Yilungelo Lakho, and then on Twitter, it's @speech Nzawumbi. And then don't forget to hashtag Yilungelo Lakho. Putani msunsundu. Tipping, an old tradition with a purpose to reward exceptional service by a waiter or waitress. But instead, it has become an entitlement, or rather an expectation from customers or consumers, sometimes even for substandard service. But this does not go down with many consumers. But before we get into our discussion, let's quickly have a look at this insert.
Whether it's at a traffic intersection, a gas filling station, or a parking lot, someone is waiting for a tip. Even this young man claiming to be at your service by keeping this intersection crime-free is expecting something out of your window. But in the minds of many consumers, the service providers, including car guards, should be going out to find real jobs. But for some of these hustlers, this is a real job, their only source of survival. For your tip, you not only get assisted with the parking or pulling out of a parking bay, but you also get your car looked after during your shopping. And many people hardly consider the value of this. Many believe paying a tip to a petrol attendant, a car guard, or a porter should be optional.
I think I've done it to one guy who helped me out get tire lab. Lali ne pancha kodwa but walungise, you know, develop a trip end. And it was that thing of takupa imali ndambulela. But ukuthi on a regular basis kanza egarage ndizo tip azange think.
Some people don't deserve it, you know, some people don't give you good service that you want.
But contrary to popular belief, not all service providers demand to be rewarded for their services.
I don't mind. Tanda, noma wafika kayenza everything for wena. Awuntipi, watipi. Ikhona but sometimes. So we don't expect.
But in establishments such as restaurants and pubs, management is upfront, demanding consumers to leave a tip of up to about 20% of their bill. And in some eateries, the tip is already cleverly worked into the bill when it's brought to your table.
Everybody's actually working for a living. If restaurants don't pay them enough, I'm willing to pay for a service.
Well, it's the service that they provide, and I only think it's fair that they get giving the 10%. And sometimes we even give more, depending on the service we get.
It doesn't matter if you drink coffee or eat food, the 10% goes to them, because making a living, that's the way to do it. That's the way they make a living, isn't it?
Lindy Mahlangu has been a waitress for 2 years. She says the money she gets from tips goes a long way.
Ama-tips anceda kakhulu ngoba anceda kakhulu emalini yokugibela for transport. Njengoba sihlala ekudeni nemsebenzi, njengoba sihlala eMamelodi sisebenzela i-insurance, then ukumela imali yokuphela kwenyanga isihlukumeza kakhulu ngoba imali yokuphela kwenyanga isuke iseba nezidingo eziningi.
There are days when she's not very lucky with tips.
Iya-affecta kodwa ngiyayamukela ngoba ngithize mangichashwa ngamukela ukuthi angichashelanga for wona ama-tips kodwa la ngisize khona ngizobe ngamukele ukuthi fanele ukuthi la angisize khona ngizokubongela kodwa asinto efanele ngibe based on ukuthi ngithembele kuyo.
But are consumers compelled to pay a tip for a service rendered?
Umthetho ovikela abathengi Consumer Protection Act awunayo i-tipping. Usho ukuthi uma ngithenge njengoba ngithengile nje ikomishi yetiye kanje ngibhekile ku menu yami ngathola kule nkomishi katiye u12 okusho ukuthi into engizoyikhokhela kulo 12 i-tip njengoba sisho ayibekwanga ayikho semthethweni.
Despite it being illegal, consumers still feel forced to pay gratuity. Skeptics of this practice have seen it as nothing but a way of restaurant owners to pass on the responsibility of paying staff wages to the consumers.
Kunobudlelwano obubili lapho. Mina njengomthengi ubudlelwane bami nomuntu othengisayo ukuthi ngizothenga ikomishi letiya ngo12 ukuthi ubudlelwane baka waiter nomuntu owner ngoba uyubudlelwane bomuntu umsebenzi nomuntu okumele akhokhele umsebenzi wakhe usomabhizinisi nomsebenzi so lobudlelwane akumelanga buhlanganiswe ukuthi wena awukhokhelanga abasebenzi bakho noma unayo imali yokukhokhela abasebenzi akumelanga ukuthi kuhlukumeze umthengi.
But many of these workers are being underpaid for the long and difficult working hours they endure. Some actually squarely depend on tips from consumers. For many workers in this sector, there's no sectorial wage determination or workers' rights to speak of. Workers' Union Sakau has encouraged workers in this sector to be unionized and also calls on those who are not unionized to report incidents of exploitation to the Department of Labor. The National Consumer Commission has also added its voice, condemning service providers who use tips to exploit consumers.
Sibenazo ikhalazo eziningana ikakhulukazi abantu esuka ngabe baye kuma restaurant ethu hleze nje yimi ngihamba nomndeni wami kuyi birthday party hleze yengane then abantu bese bayakhalaza ukuthi uma ngabe siwu6 noma siwu7 sibaningana then i-restaurant yaye ithi nakuyi party of 8 kumele nikhokhe we-additional 10% but into esiyaziko ekhona emthethweni ukuthi leyo mali ekuthiwa yi-service ayikho emthethweni.
The Commission also plans to take action.
Sizoye sikhulumisane ke manje nabantu abaphethe lamabhizinisi ama-restaurant ukuthi sikhulume nabo sibazise ukuthi i-tip ayikho semthethweni.
For many consumers and restaurant workers, it is hoped that the law will put an end to this practice, which has over the years been normalized. Nomvuyo Ntanjana for Yilungelo Lakho.
Alright, now ukunqukula kabanzi ke ngoma wethu namhlanje manamkele indwendwe zethu apha e-studio. Sino Chifiwa Shivengwa ovela Federated Hospitality Association rather. Sibe no Wendy Alberts yena omela i-Restaurant Association of South Africa. We'll also welcome Stephen Ratai ovela pha kwisebe lezabasebenzi, that is the Department of Labor. Ukumleke nawe ukuba ube ingxalenye yethu apha e-studio funeka ucela umnxeba pha kunombolo yethu, that is 011-714-6918 and 6919. Gentlemen and one beautiful lady, thank you so much for joining us on Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I suppose Wendy will kickstart our discussion with you. You saw the different views basically on the insert. Some people are saying that, well, waiters or waitresses are entitled to a portion, or rather to a tip as we call it. But some are saying that it's a matter of gratitude. Those different views, as somebody who works for an entity that basically regulates restaurants and so forth, or basically the hospitality, what do you have to say?
It's such a controversial subject. Given the history of where tipping comes from, it is an international, worldwide standard to tip people that bring service to your table, particularly in restaurants or fast food outlets or takeaways, etc. There aren't people who serve you, so self-service, there are obviously no gratuities that's passed over to the people that serve you at a fast food outlet. I think that the controversial issues have come into fact where there are so many other industries that demand tipping. And what is the formalization of all these sectors? And the service standards whereby we say what is the minimum tips for each one of these, whether it's petrol attendants or whether it is car guards or whether it is hairdresser, washers, etc. I think that there's been so much opportunity that's created for job opportunity due to the low employment rate that tipping has become so norm throughout different sectors. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on the restaurants because it was really a field that, as well as hotels, that really set the trend going forward for tipping. And given the history of restaurants, tipping was really put together, or consumers tip staff that work in restaurants for exceptional service. They deliver on service, and they feel that it is good to pay an average of around about 10%. The worldwide trend is between 10 and 15% in restaurants, and that is for good service.
All right.
I think that the history in terms of tipping at the moment, that is also quite a controversial subject, is are you tipping for order takers or are we tipping for service?
All right.
And I think that is what's really bringing consumers to a loggerhead as to what is the privilege of tipping and what is not the privilege of tipping. Where is it an expectation, or where is it a value add on to the experience that they have in a dining establishment?
But who does the tipping go to? Does it go to the waiter who was serving me, or perhaps does it go to a certain portion goes to the restaurant or the hotel at which I was having dinner or lunch?
The integrity of most restaurants give it on to the actual wait staff, the person who served the table as such. In some instances, you could have 3 or 4 waiters attending to a large table. In that instance, the tip will be split. But those terms and conditions are always agreed up front with the wait staff.
All right. Let's come to you, Shifiwa. Federated Hospitality Association, basically, what role do you play when it comes to the relationship between waiters, consumers, and the restaurants or perhaps hotels?
As an association, the role that we play is to encourage our members to ensure that the staff that they hire, understand the service excellence, because tipping comes with service. So service is first. If you offer the outstanding service, exceptional service, and you ensure that the customers that are coming to your hotels, when they arrive, you take their luggage from the bus or the coach that they arrive on, you take it to their hotels, you even take it to their rooms. So those services, we encourage that if you provide those kind of services, the customers that are coming to your establishment will be able to look at it and say, well, this is an exceptional service, and I can give a 10% or a 10 rand or whatever it is that they deem appropriate at that time. So when it comes to the hotels and the restaurants that are within the hotels, obviously inside the restaurants, the norm is you will leave at least 10%. But again, it goes back to service. If the service is outstanding, the food is great, and you're happy with what you're getting, it's sort of encouraged, to ensure that we build this culture of service, within the hospitality industry and the tourism industry at large.
Right.
So we encourage our members.
So it's an issue of gratitude. You must be grateful for what you're getting.
Absolutely.
You must be satisfied with the service. Let's come to you, Stephen, rather. But it seems like consumers, rather, are being compelled to pay there's tips, a portion of gratitude. And so in some restaurants, when you look at the receipt, it says 10% of what you've paid should go. It's a must. You're compelled to do so. Is that even legal?
Look, it's not legal. As Senior has been said, these things are optional. Remember, tipping is from the bowels of mercy of a customer who's happy about the service. But it should not be, from the Department of Labour perspective and from legislation perspective, should not be part of a remuneration or salaries of employees. And the sad story, what is happening in most of the restaurants, employees are not paid in terms of the prescribed minimum wage. The tips now has become salaries to those employees. That's where the problem is for us, the Department of Labour. But as I'm saying, this is out of the bowels of mercy. There's no law that regulates tipping, It's just, as my colleague have said this side, it's just a standard that has been practiced. But again, it must be remembered, it's out of the bowels of mercy. If you are happy, we have been to restaurants, I've tipped sometimes because of service, because it's not compulsory. I didn't tip people. Therefore, but what I want to emphasize from the Department of Labour, we prescribe, particularly in the hospitality industry, in the restaurants, also there's bargaining councils that prescribe minimum wages for the sector. Now, as I've said, you will see in these sectors, employees are paid tips, they are not paid salaries, and it's not, in terms of the law, it's not right.
That's exactly what I was going to come to. My next question is, there are a lot of people who've been working in restaurants, and you find one who's been a waiter for 8 years, and they don't have a basic salary from the restaurant. As much as they've been faithful, loyal, they're still dependent on tips. What is the law, as the Department of Labour, in the best interest of the employee? What law, what regulation, what protection do you have for such employees?
Remember, there's a hospitality sectoral determination that prescribes minimum wages for employers who are employing people 10 and less, which we consider small business. And there's also minimum wages for employers who are employing people from 10 and above, and if I should state the figures, I don't have them with me. For the employer that employ people from 10 and less is 2,700, and there's little cents there. And for employers, which we consider big employers, is 10 and above, is 3,065 rand and a couple of cents there. That's what employees must be paid. They should not be paid in terms of the tips. The law is there. But
is
remember,
there perhaps any grace period, or rather?
No, the law is already there. You know, if you're not paying that, you are flouting the law as we stand, as we speak right now.
Okay.
Now, remember, employment relations, it happens between two people. You are an employer, I'm an employee. The relationship is between you. And if employees are not complaining about those tips that are not paid minimum wages, they're paid in terms of tips, we will never know as a Department of Labor. But if they come and raise these issues with us,
so
then we'll take
forward.
steps. Yeah,
they must come forward.
As I said, it's regulated.
Ake masibambe kule ndawo ke mbukeli sibele pha evenkileni ukhumbule ke nawe ngayinxalenye yethu apha estudio kusabule nqamba pha kunombolo yethu, that is 011 714 6918 and 6919. Yilungelo Lakho continues after this. All right, welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. Welcome if you just joined us. Today in our show, we're looking at tipping. Back in the day, one had to be exceptionally good at what they do or what they did in order to get a tip. Nowadays, it seems like paying a tip at a restaurant or car parking or salon or a hotel is an expectation more than a voluntary act of gratitude. Want to know from you, should customers be compelled to give a tip? Let us know. The number is 011 714 6918 and 6919. And I said earlier on, you should send me your messages on Facebook. And right about now, I'm going to check those messages. I've got Mtobisi Clementino Mtetwa, who says tips should be given to those who show expertise with care and providing sterling service. And then specifically Oscar Upuna says speech mnanda xothwa ndiphiwe itip ngumlungu ayothenga eshop ngoku yayingathi ndiyibile le mali kumqeshi wam phofu ndiyiphiwe ndaya SCMA apho abakwazi ukundithethelela kuba akho documents endazityetywayo uqinisekisa ukuba ndingumqashwa waphela tu umsebenzi yona itip inceda kwi-lunch or ekukhweleni itaxi. And then you've got Nelza Nelly who says, I agree with those who saying tips are only for those who are doing a great job. It shows that the provider is doing a great job to the customer and should be given something in return, I think. Well, those are basically some of the Facebook messages I've got. You can still send me those messages, especially on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @speechinzaumbi. And then don't forget to hashtag Yilungelo Lakho. And remember that I said you can call us. The number is 011 714 6918 and 6919. And right about now, I've got Christina who's calling me from Soweto. Hello, Christina. Welcome to Yilungelo Lakho.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah. You know what? There's nothing wrong with tipping as long as it doesn't become a prerequisite.
Okay.
You understand? I think at the back of our minds as customers, when you go to the restaurant, you just appreciate the fact that you've got money to go and spend with your family and your friends. It's fun time, do you understand? And when you get a waiter who is friendly, willing to serve you, go an extra mile, you find the need to really appreciate their service. So I don't have a problem tipping them.
All right. Thank you so much, Christina. That was Christina who's calling us from Soweto, and she's given us a contribution, basically. She says she says nothing wrong with tips. Well, still, we are not condemning. Want to hear your views. Please make sure that you call us 011 714 6918 and 6919 is your number to dial. Well, let's come to you. Let's come to you, Stephen. There's a lady, specifically, says she lost her job, or he lost his job as a result of getting a tip. The employer said she or he stole the money. What protection do you have as the Department of Labor on such cases? Especially because she says she went to CCMA, but then they said there's no documentation to prove that you're employed by this restaurant.
Look, there's two sides to every story. I hear a story, and also if you could call the employer, will tell his story. What I would appreciate about Christina is to, I'm sorry, is to send me the write to the Department of Labor and just explain so that I get in contact with the CCMA and try to understand this case.
But you come
because it's very difficult. Remember, if you can be fired because somebody gave you, automatically it becomes unfair dismissal. But as I've said, in every case, there's two stories, there's two sides. There's employer's side, and I want to understand this case.
So you need to investigate the matter.
Investigate,
but in the interim...
if you are fired, as I've said, because we've given tips, it's unfair dismissal.
It's unfair. Especially if you're watching, definitely you're watching. The numbers are going to be on the screen, so you can call the Department of Labour, and then they'll be able to investigate into your matter. That's the number. So just take the number and please call them, and then they'll be able to assist you, possibly, you know, investigate into the matter and get into the call.
Yeah, maybe at the end I could give my email address.
Okay.
So that she can write to me. And,
all right, we'll have those details up on the screen.
Because the Department of Labour does not deal with dismissals, the CCMA. I'll want to contact the CCMA and understand this issue.
All right, let's come to you, Shifiwa. We're talking about hospitality, and you know that's basically your industry, where you represent hotels, amongst some of you know the places or entities basically that practice within the hospitality industry. The issue, as much as we're talking about tips, there's also an issue of exploitation. What do you do, or what power or control do you have over hotels, restaurants, to ensure that, you know, the money that they're getting, also, you know, those who are on the ground who are serving people, the waiters, they do have a certain secular share?
Now, that's quite important. One thing that we do is that we influence our members to follow the law. We don't want our members to be outside of the law. And as an association, we ensure that, you know, we even have awards, for example, where we say, you know, if you are a hotel and you do certain things that are good, then you get awarded, you know, through different, you know, categories and whatnot. But the biggest thing is that we encourage our members to abide to the law and make sure that, you know, when, you know, the staff is serving the customers at the restaurant, we use a fair practice. Now, talking about fair practice, every establishment has its own rules. As long as the rules are not outside of the law and the agreement between the employees and the employers.
Talking about the laws, if you are, what law exactly? Because, I mean, I can say that all my waiters are going to knock in at 7 a.m. Definitely the Department of Labour will say you must work for particular or certain hours. Yes. But then when it comes to issues of tipping, where there isn't precisely a regulation that, you know, it overtakes that, that portion of the employer-employee relations, what law can I base my guidance on?
Now, the tipping, it becomes, you know, an issue between an employer and employee. There is no regulation around it, as the Labour Department has said. But what we try to do from the association point of view is that, you know, all our members, you know, we try to say, well, abide, you know, to the labor, you know, relations, you know, how you deal with your employees. Be within the law in terms of, you know, your minimum wages, the amount of hours where the employees needs to work. So those basic conditions must be adhered to, same as the basic conditions of employment. But obviously, as an industry, you know, every establishment will have its own rules. For example, even in the restaurant business, every restaurant will have its own rules. But those rules must be clear in the beginning. So
clear
if you are
between the employer and the employee?
Yes. If I am to be a waiter, I need to understand that this restaurant works like this. You know, this hotel works like this. Okay. So it's a matter of an agreement between when I join and, you know, the employer to say, well, you know, this is how we work. Are you willing to work within these conditions? Obviously, the basic conditions of employment, you know, we cannot flaunt that. They must be followed. And then the rest is a negotiation, you know, on top of that.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about the negotiation coming to you, Andy. How do you ensure, like I said, there's an issue of exploitation where a lot of waiters, and I mean, there's an issue of job scarcity. So people are quite desperate to make an income. So if one is reliant on these tips, or rather they reliant on the service provider being a restaurant or hotel, how do you ensure, as also, you know, an entity that also looks over these restaurants, specifically restaurants, how do you ensure that the law that, or perhaps the agreements between them and the employees are quite fair?
I think, you know, you need to look back in history and see where this culture stems from. I think that's really an important factor to consider. We sit in South Africa with tremendous skills shortages in the hospitality sector. So we call on our government departments, etc., to work hand in hand with the industry partners and the industry associations to understand what is the skill shortage. How many people do we have that do not have the necessary skill to actually enter into the hospitality sector? So what it does for the industry is that it actually allows people to enter and work in the industry that are not trained, that do not have the necessary knowledge of food or hospitality or menus or service or skills, and they also do not have the personality to work in the restaurant. And restaurants then take them under their wing and they try and teach them all these skills within the establishments.
All right. Perhaps I think when we're coming back from the ad break, we need to come to you, Stephen. You need to tell us about perhaps if you have any plans to formalize the industry, perhaps make sure that those who are employed within these restaurants or hotels have got a formal qualification. In that way, perhaps they could say that, you know, I'm entitled to a certain portion of income or within this grade of income. But first, let's go for another ad break. I think after the break, Wendy will start with you and then we'll continue with our discussion. Please make sure that you join us after the break. Please make sure that you also drop your comments or rather your opinions on Facebook. We'll be reading those, and also on Twitter. We'll be back after this. Stay with us. Studio. To take part in our discussion, the number is 01171469118 and 6919. It's actually on your screen right now. You can also send me those tweets. It's @SpeechNzawumbi and then #Yilungelo Lakho. And please know that you can also get in contact with our studio guests on Facebook, on our Facebook page. So just go and drop us those messages, and then after the show, we'll possibly engage with you on some of those messages. Well, it seems like I've got a caller. I've got Monica who's calling me from Soweto. Hello, Monica.
Hello.
Hello, Mama.
Yeah, Baba. I've got a problem in the Bahamas restaurant. I was working in a restaurant in Florida in City Deep for 13 years.
15 years?
I was working with 13 years. I was working as a waitress there.
Okay.
And the restaurant also.
All right.
And then I get paid 280 per week, but because I was a waitress, getting tip, and the tip I think is not... tip is not a force. It's just a customer gives to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just left there in the restaurant. So I didn't get my money for 13 years. So now I want to know what can I do now.
All right.
Because I didn't get my money for 13 years I worked there.
Okay. All right. Is this supposed to be... okay, thank you so much, Monica. Is this supposed to be retirement? Or okay, but before we get to that, let's just speak to Sipho. Sipho's calling us from KZN. Hello, Sipho.
Yebo, njani futhi?
Sikhona baba kunjani? Sipho?
Sipho Ndima eMondlo esigodini kwaMaqanga.
Nsizwa yakithi.
Mina futhi ngisebenza egarage. Uyabona iservice engisuke ngikupha yona. Kusuka kuwumsebenzi wami. Uma mangabe ngikupompela itayera, ngicheckela i-oil, ngikusulela i-windscreen, umsebenzi wami loyo ongadingi ukuthi ungiphe imali. Kodwa uma ngabe ngikuchazile kusenhlizweni yakho ukuthi ungiphe okuthandayo, futhi mangabe ungangiphanga akusiyicala lelo ngoba umsebenzi engiwenzayo ngiyawuholela.
Okay. All right. Siyabonga kakhulu, Sipho, and that was Sipho's calling us from KZN. I think the first caller, Monica, she says that she worked at a restaurant for 13 years, and then last year, or beginning this year, she decided to leave. She wasn't fired, she decided to leave. She resigned, basically. But she says that she hasn't been paid her money. So that's why I was questioning whether perhaps this is her retirement or pension for 13 years. Let's bring that one to you, Stephen.
Yeah. It's a bit difficult, particularly when I don't know the facts around this issue. But what I understood, she said she was paid 200.
Yeah, 280 a week.
A week, and over and above that, that
she'll
was supplemented by the tips, which is very wrong.
Okay.
Tips should not be part of your salary.
Okay.
Your salary is prescribed in terms of the law, and you must be paid you must be paid what the law prescribes. And tips are over and above if the employer gives you that. It's not even a right. If there are employers in the industry that gives tips, and there's a policy in certain companies that tips are not allowed. Therefore, it should not be part of tips, your salary. Tips should be over and above your salary. Now, I don't know when she left her job. Beginning of this year, because if she was paid below the minimum wage, and she says, you know, there's 12 years period where the employees can claim their outstanding monies and approach the Department of Labor, but will not go as far as you know, the years, because she was supposed to have come to the Department of Labor.
So what can she do in the case now? She left her job, she's at home, but she believes that she's entitled to that money.
Let her approach the nearest Department of Labor to her. But there's an issue that you raised earlier, the issue of exploitation in the sector.
Yeah.
Definitely exploitation is rife. In the sector.
So this is a typical
not
case
all
of
employers.
perhaps.
There are good employers, there are bad employers.
All right.
Employers who know there's a minimum wage. We are not paying minimum wage, you know. At times, employees must also pay, they pay for cutleries that is not broken by them. You know, the law does not require that. The law says unless there's negligent on the part of an employee, that's where money should be deducted. Okay. And money that is equivalent to the item that the employee, you know, and it should be, okay?
Yeah, okay, finish up what you're going to say. Okay, I was going to say, can an employer deduct perhaps if, let's say, the waiter or the waitress was given or served a table for, let's say, 1,000 rands. That was the total amount. And then she gets a tip of 500 rands. Can an employer say, no, give me 400 rands, you're only entitled to 10% of what you got? Is that
There must be company policy, not arbitrary decisions. Remember, you can't enforce anything around tips. As I've said, it's out of the... And from your callers, some of them says, we are employed, we are offering a service, and we are paid for that. As I've said, it's out of the bowels of mercy. And I think there must be a company policy. That's what I recommend, where there's no policy, just to clear up the issues of tips.
Okay, it's out of the bowels of mercy. Monica, out of the bowels of mercy. Wendy, sorry. Let's talk about skilled labor versus unskilled labor. What's the difference, especially when it comes to the earnings?
No, like I said earlier, I think there's this huge gap that sits in the industry between unskilled labor and skilled labor. From my experience and from those top restaurants that have good staff that are trained on a daily basis, that are trained on a weekly basis, that have got experience, that are the right kind of candidate. You know, eating is pure pleasure. So the person who engages and serves you has an intimate relationship with you for the extension of the time that you're in a restaurant. They're part of the delivery of the experience. Very often, they're the only encounter to the experience of that restaurant. And those very skilled waiters or wait staff get rewarded for that experience. They are, some of them are the top earners. It's such a wonderful career, waitering in our industry. There's exposure to so many skills, to so many types of people, the opportunity to travel, the opportunity to take yourself around the world, in fact. And we have a number of excellent wait staff in our industry. And again, the employer has invested into those staff, consistently trained them, has access to online training, download certain videos or DVDs, and they consistently give them tools to do their job better and expose them to wine training or beer training or food training or cuisine training or experiential training or the understanding of their restaurant. So there's a lot of passion that goes into those staff. You can definitely tell from walking into a restaurant whether a waiter is going to serve you as experienced or unexperienced. And it starts by a very measurement of their attitude as you walk in.
But sometimes the attitude changes as soon as you give them a tip. You know, they're good as soon as you walk in, you order, and then when you pay them the tip, I think perhaps they look at what you're giving them and then they feel, you know, this is way too little than what they deserve. And then the attitude changes.
Absolutely. But you know, it stems from the onset of the beginning of the experience. And again, this goes back to the availability of skill sets by CAT-CETA, by the Department of Labour, short skills courses, short availability to upgrade and upskill. And you know, where there has been implementation from the National Department of Tourism, because we're still part of the hospitality sector, we're still part of tourism, and we forget that although all these elements that we focus on, they're factorial to the development of tourism in South Africa, whether it be local, domestic or international tourism, that they feed for the experiences that people have. So it really is important that we bring these skills and that the work skills plans are also met accordingly. So those access to funds are not always available to the lower end restaurants that are smaller or more intimate. They're really only available to the larger groups to make application for that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's quickly take another ad break. Umbuzo wethu ke uthi ingaba kumele banyanzelwe na ukuba babhatale isixa semali esithile abathengi xa begqiba ukutya okanye ukupaka imoto okanye ukulungisa inwele. Sifuna ukwazi ke ukuba wena ucinga ntoni ngetip. Inombolo yethu kungaqhomeshana nathi ngayo apha studio. It's 011-714-6919 or 6918. You can also send us your messages on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Yilungelo Lakho, or rather go tweet me directly, and that is speech and then hashtag Yilungelo Lakho. We'll continue after this. Please make sure that you stay with us. Sikhokhona kwakhona ke mbukeli phambi kwasihlabela mgama nengxoxo yethu ukhumbula kuba nawe ungayingxele yethu apha studio usala mnxeba pha kunombolo yethu, that is 011-714-6918 and 6919. And right now I've got callers. Actually, before the callers, let me just check some of the messages you've sent me on Facebook. I've got Pikabe Shomajozi, who says, as long as you get good service, tips must be given to a good servicer. And then you've got Pumeza Mbali who says, mna ndicinga ukuba itip ifanele ukukhutshwa ngumntu oyothenga xa encoma umzi ngokwenza umsebenzi okanye ngokwenza kakuhle umsebenzi wakhe ngokuthanda kwakhe ayisosinyanzeliso. And then you've got George Wakamatonsi who says to be tipped is not good at all. You can lose your job because of it. Be happy with your salary or the salary that you get from your employer. Clearly, there are differing views when it comes to the issue of tipping. I also want to hear your view. What do you think? Do you think that perhaps people should be tipped, or rather it's a bad idea, like George says, that you just have to be grateful with what you're getting? Actually, let me just hear from some of the callers. I've got Leonard, who's calling me from Pretoria. Hello, Leonard. Is our caller there? Okay, it seems like we've lost him. Is Freddie there? Freddie, are you on the line?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, yes, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is it Leonard or is it Freddie?
Yes, it's Freddie. I'm working as a waiter in Pretoria. The guy at the Department of Labour there is not telling the truth.
Okay.
The Department of Labour is not helpful at all.
All
Because they made an arrangement with the bosses that the problems of restaurants, they fall under the council. So if you go to them, they will never take your problems. They will refer you to the Beginning Council. And when you get to the Beginning Council, there's this thing which is used by employers called contract work. The employer will just come and say, this person doesn't work for me. And your case will never be taken. So people in restaurants are not able to negotiate their salaries, and they are not able to fight for their problems.
Is this from a personal point of view, Freddie?
Yes. I've had a problem. I was even fired from work for challenging that, and then I was only helped by my lawyers who were able to challenge that, and I managed to return to work. And then there was the money which was supposed to be paid, and I never got that money because the employer, when even we go to the council, there was hearings 3 times. They never came until the commissioner gave a decision in my favor. So the guy from the Department of Labour is not telling you the truth.
All right, Stephen, would you like to engage with Freddie on the line? Freddie, just please stay on the line. Stephen would like to talk to you. What can he do in this case? What possibly happened?
No, first, I must say to Freddie, I'm not sure where I'm not telling the truth, because there's a sectoral determination for hospitality industry that prescribes the minimum wages and conditions of employment. But where there's a bargaining council where he's right, we don't have jurisdiction as a Department of Labour. The bargaining council has its own mechanism to enforce the wages and the conditions of employment if employers flout those conditions. And where there's bargaining council, he's right, in Pretoria there is a bargaining council. And where there's a bargaining council, employees must go to the bargaining council, not the Department of Labour. And also in Joburg, but in other parts of the provinces, our provinces here in South Africa, we don't have bargaining councils.
But why is that?
It's because the employers and trade unions agree that they will regulate their own industry and make sure that they enforce conditions of employment within their own industry.
But in his case, it's more or less similar to Monica's case, where you leave perhaps the restaurant or the hotel that you're working for, and then you don't get what's due to you. If then the Department of Labour is not able to protect such people, what other protection can they get?
But he's protected. Remember, the Labour Relations sets bargaining councils, you know. And as I've said, in these 2 places, the bargaining council is not the Department of Labour. He managed to go to a bargaining council, and he says the commissioner ruled in his favour. Therefore, he's protected. The law is very clear. Unfair dismissal. He went to the bargaining council, and a determination was made in his favour.
All right. Freddie, you're still on the line, I believe. Did you hear what Stephen is telling us?
Yes, I hear him. So, no, it's not true what he's saying, because even if you go to the Department of, to the Beginning Council without a lawyer, they will not even take a case, you know. Lawyers are able, yes, to fight for you, but if you go there without a lawyer, they will not take up the case. You know, the guy should really tell the truth.
All right, thank you so much, Freddie. I think perhaps what you can do is that you can send us an email right here on Yilungelo Lakho. Our email address is consume@sabc.co.za, and I think perhaps we'll just look at some other entities perhaps that could possibly look into this case. It might not be you at fault as the Department of Labour, like
but
you said, you
also
indicated.
We must not deceive viewers here.
Okay.
I hear he had a challenge, but there's no requirement that you should have a lawyer when you go there. You know, when you are dismissed, go there and open your case. And as I've said, I would love
think in this case it was a matter of representation. He needed, like any employer, you do need some kind of formal representation when you're dealing with a case, perhaps, where you're looking for what's due to you.
Yeah, but remember, majority of employees in these industries, these are vulnerable sectors. They cannot afford lawyers. Therefore, lawyers are not requirements, so to say, to refer cases. That must be clear.
All right. Let's come to you, Wendy. We cannot take away from the fact that, I mean, we're looking at the issue of tipping before we move astray from the whole subject as a whole. We're looking at the issue of tipping and then the issue of minimum wage. We cannot turn a blind spot in the fact that there's a lot of illegal immigrants who are slowly, or rather fast, or quickly, you know, infiltrating the industry and taking over. What do you have to say, or what do you have to do in order to regulate and to ensure that there's at least a bit of fairness when it comes to that?
You know, the industry, like I said to you earlier, is really, it's a very challenged industry. So it's extremely long hours for one. You engage with people, so you need really good communication skills. You need really good problem-solving skills. You need to have a lot of energy. You need to have a lot of enthusiasm. And you need to have product knowledge and people knowledge as well as food knowledge in order to be good at your job. And these things are very taxing on you. So like I said to you, we have a division of unskilled and skilled. So we typically find that we have a lot of foreigners that work in the industry, and they are generally very good. They have an understanding of hospitality. They have an understanding of the restaurant sector. They're happy to work the long hours. They're happy to participate in the restaurant, in teamwork, etc. And they're not there to work for the minimum wage. They're there to work for tips. They earn exceptionally good salaries. They get exposure to all sorts of things. We also springboard for other industries. So there's a lot of opportunity for those good waiters. The problem is that a lot of guys have no skill, and they come into the industry and they want to be waiters. So it means that they do not have any acumen of the basic elements that go into running a restaurant, even in terms of what the crockery is called, the food is called, the front of house, the back of house. So it comes with a lot of abuse. And then people don't want to tip them. And I think then they survive also on the minimum wage. So instead of trying to elevate their profile and gain experience, they rely just on the minimum wage. And they do the basics of the delivery that they need to do.
All right. Okay. Yes.
Can I
just
come
quickly.
in on the issue of foreigners there? Look, there's a tendency, particularly...
Just quickly before we go for an ad break.
Okay, it goes across the industry. When there's a minimum wage prescribing the sectors, there's a tendency of employers employing foreigners because of their vulnerability and pay them below the minimum wage. Let me stop there. I would want to come back.
All right, we'll continue on that issue, definitely on that issue after we come back from the ad break. I know that, Chief, you've got a lot of issues. You also want to be vocal on some of the issues we've raised. When I come back from the ad break, I promise you we'll get to that. Please make sure that you also join our discussion. The number is 011 714 6918 and 6919. But right now, let's hold it right there and take another ad break. Yilungelo Lakho continues after this. All right, welcome back to our final segment. We're still continuing with our discussion, talking about issues of tipping. Do you think that perhaps customers, or rather waiters or waitresses, are entitled to tips? That's what we've been talking about throughout the show. Right now, I've got Ndombi who's calling me from Cape Town. Hello, Ndombi. Welcome to Yilungelo Lakho.
Hello, Putinjani.
Ndikona khona kunjani sisi wami?
Yaphile nkosi. Mamela uthela noNtombi apha eCape Town, eh?
Ntombi?
I graduated 2010 hospitality management, also Sisulu.
Yes.
So I'm still working as a waiter since then. So baye bafika abantu emsebenzini bathe ne. And then abanye bangatiphi, there is iphathi ebhaliwe pha gratuity ne-total yabo.
Yes.
Bangatiphi abanye basukume bahambe, and then awunaxhala ke uyamyeka msumuntu ebezotya musigqibeleni ahambe. Okanye abanye bafike ne-laptop zabo bahlale the whole day. Ininzi zebhudo esentlokweni yami bendizibethela but enza gqabagqaba. Bahlale nge-laptop zabo bangatiphi umuntu ayenza umsebenzi bezowenza ahamba ngathi mhlawumbi ashiye i-R5 below 500 rand yabo. And thina asirholi emsebenzini sirhola ngekomishini. The more you work kulapho ufumana khona imali. Umzekelo ngoba ndigula khange ndiphangele anamali. Zawuthi kuze ndiphangele ndibe ndiyakwenza tips again yabo.
Ngelo xesha qualified. Okay, and thank you so much, Ntombi. That was Ntombi who's calling us from Cape Town. Comes back to what we were talking about earlier on. She studied, she's a graduate, you know, she's a professional in what she does, but she doesn't get a basic salary. You know, she gets commission, and sometimes she doesn't get a tip. You know, it goes back to what you were saying, you know, the regulation. Shouldn't there be a standard regulation when it comes to this? You know, we're talking about tipping. Yes, that's the, you know, the main cause of this discussion. Before we divert, let's come to you, Chifu.
I think that it's quite important that, you know, an employer and an employee agree on the working conditions. Again, there are basic conditions of employment that governs what are the things that needs to be there when someone is hired. And any industry or sector can then say, over and above what we're doing, this is, you know, we can add 1, 2, 3, 4.
But doesn't she belong in the category of skilled labor?
She could. I mean, we will
She's
need to assess.
She's got a diploma.
Yeah, she could. But remember that having a diploma doesn't necessarily mean that you're skilled.
So experience does qualify
Experience
you in
is
this
on that. And that's why when you talk about issues of service, a lot of people go to school and then they come out of school and say, well, I've got a diploma, you know, I'm skilled, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4. When you talk about service and the culture of service, it starts with your attitude and it goes all the way. But again, obviously there are issues that are obvious in terms of, you know, the industry, in terms of, you know, certain, you know, restaurants or certain hospitality providers that could be exploiting the employees. That's the issue that we can look at, and then we can figure out how we can inspect and make sure that the basic conditions of employment are met, to make sure that the basic things that the employer and employee agree on, you know, are met. But as an industry, when we look at hospitality, we want people that are motivated, that understand the culture of service, that understand that when I go out there, I'm going to give my best. Whatever comes on top of that, if, you know, the client is happy, then again, you know, it's just a thank you. It's a gratuity.
Because of time, let's come to you, Wendy. Just give us your closing remarks and basically what you have to say, especially to employers who are out there when it comes to issues of tips and consumers, basically the whole relation or the whole trio when it comes to tipping.
Upliftment of skills is essential. Investing in your staff, training your staff, giving your staff as much exposure to education that gives them the ability to be better at their jobs. Calling on obviously the cath seaters and the seaters to formalise the qualification, to give these people a career that they can be proud of, to grow within, and for people to take it seriously. And then for the employees to be proud of what they do, and not to expect the tip, but to understand that it is a privilege for service.
To get a tip.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
I just want to emphasize on the issue of foreign workers. They are also covered in terms of our law. Our law don't discriminate if you are a foreigner or not. They qualify for minimum wages. And also, it's right, the law prescribes also talks about the commission, but it says it should not be less than the minimum wage prescribed. The other issue that I want to say is the issue...
Just because of time, just quickly.
Yeah. I wanted to say I'm also worried about workers who are working until 2 o'clock in the morning, and employers don't provide the transport when the law says they must provide transport for those workers in the industry.
That waiters should have transport to go home.
The employer must ensure there's transport, because in some of those things they become clubs up to 2 o'clock, and poor workers now must stand there asking for leaves to go home, which is very dangerous.
All right, thank you so much. Wendy, Stephen, Shifu, thank you so much for joining us in our discussion today. It was a fruitful one, and hopefully the employers and the employees have learned about their rights, and also consumers, when it comes to the issue of tipping, have got a bit of clarity when it comes to that. That is where we end today's talk show, or rather discussion. Let me thank my guests for joining us right in studio. In our discussion, hopefully you've learned something, especially when it comes to tipping. So the next time you go out there to eat something, just know that there are people who are at the mercy of that. Well, till next time, or rather join us on Mondays, every Monday. Please make sure that you join us 12 midday for our repeats. I'm sure for those who missed this episode, you'll go out there and you'll spread the word and you'll tell them they must make sure that they catch this episode on Monday, 12 midday. From me, Spogonza Wumbi and the rest of the team, till we meet again. It's God bless. Have a good one.